Look, so obviously the headline is Donald Trump had this DoorDash grandma next to him. And yesterday at the White House, they talked about no tax on tips, and she saved this money by utilizing no tax on tips. Let me expose the propaganda here of what really went down, how this was manufactured by Donald Trump and DoorDash, how the DoorDash stock was up over 4%. DoorDash shareholders and people who may have known about this made huge amounts of money. DoorDash's market cap went up almost $2 billion while this stunt took place. And for Donald Trump, right before tax day, it allowed him to spread this propaganda that his no tax on tips was saving people a lot of money, and he wants to distract from his catastrophic and unlawful war in Iran, and he wants to distract from the terrible economic condition that currently exists in the United States. Let's just break down the propaganda together, shall we? So let's meet who DoorDash grandma really is, because she seems to be going GOP event to GOP event, and they kind of reintroduce her. She does this traveling tour, right? She's from Arkansas. Her name is Sharon Simmons. She previously testified before the MAGA Republicans House Ways and Means field hearing in Nevada. And she testified about being a DoorDash employee there and how no tax on tips would help her. So back in July 2025, she was rolled out by MAGA Republicans. Then I think her husband's a MAGA guy who wears the Trump hat in a lot of places that he goes, and her story, is an interesting one, whether or not it's true. We'll explore that on this video. She says that she makes approximately $22,000 a year because she says her tips make up about more than half of her overall income. She said on the various programs that she makes about $11,000 in tips. So that's how you get the 22,000 gross income number. And so that would put her in one of the lowest tax brackets imaginable. So for fiscal year 2025 or tax year 2025, she owed very little taxes, perhaps a few $100s in taxes. So a no tax on tips policy for her, given her tax bracket that she makes $22,000 a year, is not going to be any significant savings. I mean, at most, maybe it'll be $1,000 of savings. And by the way, in this economy right now, any savings is a good thing. But when you scrutinize her story, it makes very little sense for a lot of reasons. She says that the no tax on tips for 2025, right? Because now we're in 2026 and the no tax on tips for 2025 is now going to be used on your, the taxes that she's filing now as a deduction. She said that helped her pay for her husband's cancer treatment. She says her husband has stage 3 cancer, and that no tax on tips is basically saving her husband's life right now, that she gets from the DoorDash from the tips she gets from DoorDash. Now, I don't know if you are aware how expensive cancer treatment is. $1,000 in savings is what max. So let's just say it's even a few $1,000s that she gets in savings, which is not what it would come to based on her tax bracket. That's not going to help save her husband. That's not going to be applied to his cancer treatment. I mean, maybe it would be perhaps a few hours of one visit to see an oncologist, but like one dosage of medication, maybe. And I mean, obviously there's deeper issues that should be discussed. I mean, even if you accept her story as true, how tragic in the wealthiest nation in the world history that a grandma would have to work in DoorDash and rely on tips in order to keep her husband alive, that someone her age should be even working like that in order to save her husband's life, that we don't have a system where someone of her husband's age can't even access any health care at all. I mean, there are deeper issues there, but her story makes very little sense. So I want to break down the propaganda for you. And I also want to show that this is part of broader propaganda and brainwashing campaigns that the Trump regime engages in. I could rewind a little bit too, because I'm not sure if you remember during the campaign in 2024, the MeidasTouch network would always point out all of these propaganda stunts that Donald Trump would do. And all of the media would like buy into it as though it was like, look what he's doing. Remember some of the stunts we pointed out? Like he would say, I'm going into a black church. Remember the black church stunt? I'm going into this black church. And then the black church actually was filled up with no black people. Like it was all white people in a black church. And then like you learned more about the church, and there was like a financial dispute between like the current owner and the old owner of the church. And the person who was there was involved in all this litigation. And they basically filled up the black church with Donald Trump's white MAGA supporters wearing their MAGA hats. And they were like, look, we're in a black church, everybody. Right. So they pulled that stunt during the campaign. We called it the black church stunt here on the MeidasTouch network. But the media was like, oh my God, he has all this black support. He's doing a big thing in the black church. I'm like, dude, there's all these white people. There's no black people in the church. It's like a made up thing. Yes. I mean, the person who they claims to be leading the church is a black guy, but let's open up our eyes here, right? Remember the bodega stunt, right? When Donald Trump would be like, I'm going to the bodega in Bronx or the bodega in Harlem to show all of the supporters that I have out there. Remember, he would have his criminal trial or all those trials that year. And he would go to the bodega. And then we pointed out, it looks like that whole crowd where the cameras are filled with the young Republicans of New York. And they're basically Trump's MAGA people who would go to bodega and event to event. We would do stories on that. But like the media would be like, why Trump's bodega stunt should make people really scared, about his rising popularity. And Trump used these images to try to project to these communities. Look, he must have support amongst the black community. Look, he must have support amongst Hispanic communities, that visit these bodegas. Look at the people there. Remember the Chick-fil-A stunt that Donald Trump did? I think her name was Michaela Montgomery. And she would, black lady, in a predominantly black neighborhood. Donald Trump visited a Chick-fil-A, and she was like an ultra MAGA person who like worked on Republican campaigns. And she would go event to event to event, like this Chick-fil-A that she went to like in Atlanta. And then she would act like she was spontaneously hugging Donald Trump. And Trump would be like, oh, look, black ladies like me because Michaela Montgomery. He wouldn't say who she is. She hugged me. And then all the media would like buy into it. And they would be like, look, Donald Trump must have support amongst black women because he got a hug at this Chick-fil-A. Right. So it was stunt after stunt after stunt after stunt like that. And this is just more of the same. And I think people, because of the MeidasTouch network, are becoming more wise to these stunts. But the media would write about all of these things without any kind of critical review or scrutiny. Like, these are obviously set up things. I'll break all of that down. I just wanted to give you kind of the prelude, if you will. So now let's talk about DoorDash grandma, as she's being referred to. So the way this was portrayed, she shows up at the White House to deliver McDonald's to Donald Trump. Like, what a ridiculous, story to begin with. She's from Arkansas, so she's not in Washington, D.C. So it's not like Donald Trump or someone at the White House is ordering DoorDash and she's driving, because she doesn't live in D.C. She lives in Arkansas, because people were asking her questions after, and her story kind of cracked under the questions when you put it all together. So she's from Arkansas. She shows up at the White House to deliver this McDonald's. DoorDash, in coordination with the White House, then posts, celebrating no tax on tips. Dasher completes first ever White House delivery to mark impact of no tax on tips. Boom! DoorDash stock rises 4.61% right away, right? You know how we've been seeing when Donald Trump does all these things, whether it's Liberation Day or with the blockades, and then in the morning he posts things and the stocks go up and down, right? DoorDash right here, up 4.61%, about a $2 billion increase in the market cap. So lots of people got lots of money off of that right there.
I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of MeidasTouch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popak Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popak Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popak Firm today at 1-877-POPAK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopakfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popak Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.
So then Caroline Levitt posts the video. I'm breaking down the anatomy of this stunt, this scheme. And she goes, President Trump just received a McDonald's delivery order from a DoorDash driver outside of the Oval Office. Thanks to President Trump signing no tax on tips into law, Sharon is using the $11,000 on tips that she made last year to support her family. And then Donald Trump's even like, oh, this doesn't look staged right here. Ha ha ha. Look at this, everybody. Watch this and play this clip.
That's very nice. Look at this. This doesn't look staged, does it?
They're all your favorites.
That's right. These are good. DoorDash is doing a good job. So the reason for this is the fact that I heard you picked up an extra $11,000 that you didn't get because the tax bill was so big.
Then you have this clip over here where David Aladante says, we briefly spoke with this woman who brought McDonald's to Trump. Sharon Simmons tells us that the Trump elimination of taxes on tip has changed her life. Last year, she received $11,000 in tips and says that savings has helped her cover her husband's cancer treatment. What do you mean by that savings? It's a deduction. She's not taking the $11,000, number one. Number two, if you listen to, I'm going to play the clip. If you listen to what she says that the tips make up more than half of her income. So that would mean her income is $22,000. So that means the total tax she was paying without no tax on tips is under $1,000 to begin with, or just even say it's $1,000. So the no tax on tips barely saved her anything. And that's not going to be helping her husband's cancer treatment. Folks, can we just use a modicum of critical thinking here? When reporters report these things, I know that you do it. I'm just saying, the reporter, stop parroting this BS. Actually take a step back and let's think this through. Here's what she says here. Let's play this clip.
$11,000. My tips were over half of my income from last year.
I mean,
so
that's a life changer.
Yes, it is. It is. And when, like I said, when you're dealing with someone that has gone through cancer and, you love them, you don't want to lose them. So you do everything that you can. And, you go through your life savings, but this no tax on tips and the help from DoorDash is life changing.
Do you think this is the world's most famous DoorDash delivery?
Maybe. I don't know that I would ever be able to say that I've delivered to anybody else that's been more high profile.
How was President Trump?
Very, very kind.
Do you like the Oval?
Oh, it was beautiful.
It's your first time meeting the president?
Yes. First time in DC.
Did you vote for him?
I have. Yeah.
In the last election?
Well, I was actually moved, so I hadn't had a chance to change my voter registration. But again, this is about no tax on tips, and that's really what I'm here for.
Where do you live now?
I leave tomorrow night.
No, where do you live?
Oh, I live in Arkansas.
Okay.
Final question for you. You've been very kind. Thank you. What do you think this policy, no tax on tips? We've heard so many stories of people getting thousands of dollars back that they weren't planning on. How is this changing the American economy, in your opinion?
Well, I believe that, with the no tax on tips,
Sorry, I didn't see that without that going through.
I do believe with the no tax on tips, that it is putting more money into.
And then I have a short clip of her as well. And in this short clip over here, she says that that her savings is around $3,000. Anyway, listen to what she says in this interview. I'll show you the short clip first of this interview with Fox. Let's play it.
Over half of my my amount that I earned last year were tips. And so that is an incredible amount. So, if you really want to break down the numbers, I probably saved probably $3,000 to $4,000 with not having to pay.
And then I have a longer interview that she did with Fox. And Sharon Simmons, this DoorDash grandma who was just part of a Trump photo op at the White House, says that the no tax on help helped her because she couldn't afford her husband's cancer treatment. And look, if any dollar goes to her husband's cancer treatment, that would be great. But cancer treatment is very expensive. On a minimum, hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is what insurance is supposed to cover. And we in the United States, it's tragic that we wouldn't have insurance to cover this. But if someone makes $22,000, the no tax on tips is not helping her help her husband. Like, it just isn't like that. That's not what it's going to be helpful for. Anyway, play this clip.
So how much does this no tax on tips mean to you? I mean, I don't know what the structure of payment is there at DoorDash, how much you get in salary per delivery, and then how much of your income is tips. Can you kind of break it down to us and tell us what this no tax on tips really means for you?
Well, what this really means for me is, as they said last year, my husband, he was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. During that time, I was able to take some time and take him to his appointments and, be there with him. But as going through treatment, even with insurance, you kind of break the bank. And, we pretty much went through our savings. And so when I found out about the no tax on tips, I was like, this is incredible, because this, it's not going to replace my life savings, but it's going to help certainly with future doctor's appointments and future things that, we have going on.
Sure. How
And
much
so
go ahead. Sorry.
It means a lot.
Okay. And then we learned that they shipped her around. DoorDash grandma, Sharon Simmons, goes around place to place and does this. Here she is in Nevada at this hearing where the MAGA Republicans used her as one of their witnesses regarding no tax on tips. This was done on July 28th, 2025. Play this clip.
Simmons, thank you for appearing today. You gave heartfelt testimony. If you can, and you don't know what you don't know, but from your perspective, what do you think this bill is ultimately going to mean for you and the savings that you're going to have?
Well, again, I believe that, it's going to free up some stuff for me. It means that I'm going to be able to stay more connected with my family in Missouri. It's going to help with any future treatments. God forbid that he has to have more treatments, but it will help more with that. It is truly, DoorDash is truly a independent, industry. And I enjoy that part of it. I like being able to, just do what I need to do. And freeing up this extra money means quite a bit to my family.
And Ms. Simmons, do you consider yourself to be wealthy or well-connected?
Not at all.
And look, I think this whole thing backfired to begin with anyway. As this one account points out, the photo op of Donald Trump tipping her $100. The photo op doesn't land right now, this account says. Everyone's broke. DoorDashing, OnlyFansing, prediction market gambling to make ends meet. And Trump is handing out a $100 tip to an older lady who still has to work is bad optics. Like, here, go buy yourself a tank of gas. Good luck, lady. Enjoy the war right there. But you see, for Trump, whether it's the bodega stunt, the black church stunt, the Chick-fil-A stunt, you name it, it's about making the video, right? You know how Donald Trump also, I'll show this in a little bit too, where he does the waving and there's nobody actually there and he like waves to nobody, because they use that as the kind of propaganda image. Like he did one of those in the Kennedy Center where he waved to nobody at the Kennedy Center as well. I'll show you those in a moment. But this is the White House video. DoorDash hits the Oval Office. $11,000 refund delivered. All thanks to no tax on tips. It's not an $11,000 refund. It's a deduction. But setting aside that it's a deduction, she's only making $22,000. So it's not anything that actually materially makes a difference to her, because she's barely paying taxes at all to begin with, based on her income bracket. But how are you saving that amount of money to save your husband's life or cancer? I'm just saying the story has a lot of freaking holes in it. But this is the White House video that they make. Here, play this clip. Then I talked about the other stunts that Donald Trump pulls, right? This is Michaela Montgomery. She's the Atlanta-based MAGA operative who went to all those locations, the Chick-fil-A Atlanta, the Mar-a-Lago Palm Beach, the 180 Church Detroit, the Black Church stunt. She was there too. And just here's an example where she goes in the Chick-fil-A, she hugs him, and then the media reports it. Young black female says Trump did much better than Biden did on the topic of HBCUs, historical black colleges and universities. And she goes in for the hug at Chick-fil-A. Seriously? I mean, how do you buy into this stuff? And that's what was happening during the campaign all of the time. And yeah, you think he did better than Biden on HBCUs as Donald Trump cuts all the HBCU spending? But okay, sure. Here, play this clip.
Well, we took care of those colleges. And
Sure did. Much better than Biden did. So I would love to. This is Clark Atlanta. This is Spelman. This is Morehouse. This is Morris Spelman. All
Isn't that great?
So I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump. We support you.
We love you.
Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a hug.
Please
And then you have Lara Trump, where she would go on state regime media during the campaign, and she's like, when Donald Trump visits a bodega, that's not manufactured. Whenever he visits Chick-fil-A, that's not manufactured. They're literally telling you what they were doing. Here, play this clip.
That's what they do at Trump rallies, except at Trump rallies, Sean, it's authentic. We don't manufacture anything like this. When Donald Trump visits a bodega in Harlem, that's not manufactured either. Whenever he visits a Chick-fil-A in Atlanta, not manufactured.
Okay. And then when Donald Trump was at the criminal trial, here he is saying, I'm going to a bodega. You know about that, right? Play this clip.
Going to a bodega. You know about that, right?
And as we identified at the MeidasTouch network back then, when he was saying all of these things in 2020 during the campaign, in 2024, you can actually see over here the young Republicans who were in the crowd. They were MAGA supporters, ultra MAGA supporters, who were out there pretending that they're just random people in the bodega. I'll show you just some of the B-roll of the black church that he went to that was not really a black church, or it was, they filled it up with white MAGA supporters to act like it was, crowded. These are the stunts that he is pulling. Oh, and then remember I showed you the clip of, I talked about this on the MeidasTouch show yesterday, and then I'll talk about it now, but I also talked about it in a video I did in the morning, when Donald Trump said that he posted recently that he saved Ed McMahon from foreclosure in 2008 and allowed McMahon to live in his home when he was getting foreclosed on, and Trump saved him and didn't go to the press. Like, the whole story's made up. Donald Trump in 2008 leaked to the LA Times that he was saving McMahon's home from foreclosure. That didn't actually happen. Someone else bought McMahon's home, and McMahon's daughter says, yeah, Donald Trump said he was going to buy the home in 2008 and just never did it, and just left us hanging. But then publicized like he did to act like he's a good guy. These are the stunt seat polls. Let's investigate it. Let's call it out. It's obvious stuff. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. That's what we need to be reporting on. Stuff like this. Thanks.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.